totally didn't have my mic muted the whole time. I know, I'm terrible at streaming. I always forget the little things. So I'm gonna have to start over. Anyway, I'm like, something didn't look 100% right, and I just couldn't tell what it is. Anyway, part 2 of the stream, so welcome. We will be using these switches for the build. The thing is, we have to make them out of bamboo blacks and ivories, or cream damps. But these are my own homemade pine black Alps, which are said to be nicer than the later ones. Because pine housings are the secret sauce. Because bamboo black Alps are pretty common and cheap to get, and so are cream damp switches. But these are the cheapest way to get pine housings. If you combine blacks with these, you get this, which sounds so much better. And also, I will say, I did not use the original SKCM black tactile leaves. Well, mainly because these came linearized, actually. So I got some leaves from SKBM blacks, and which they feel more chunky and more satisfying and really great. So yes, these homemade pine blacks are going into focus. Really, the one downside of these creams is that they tend to get clicky on the upstroke, but a few days ago I actually learned a pretty good trick that eliminates that, so once again, another way to improve some otherwise, I don't know, less highly rated Alps switches. So what we're going to do is swap all the parts from at least the 60% block because of time, because swapping parts from Alps is very time consuming. Because I already got a head start on the switches over here to my right, because I got 104 switches from an FK-2001, and of course this is a TKL, so extra switches from the numpad I've already done. And, you know, figuring out the right, darn, I lost the word. Configuration, that's the word. Configuration of switch, of, like, you know, just swapping the slider and spring, or the slider and the leaf. I'm trying to think, what was it? It was the slider and the spring that I decided on for this. I may do this again, testing, you know, may do this again only with using the stock SKCM bamboo blacks and the ivories. So then I can get a better idea of what it's like to actually use genuine parts while not, you know, swapping from these. Because, I mean, the board where I got these other tactile leaves from aren't really that easy to find, so I still have a toothpick right now. That should change soon, you know, for opening up Alps switches. Let's see, I think what I'm going to do is do a row at a time. Well, I mean, because yeah, I already got the one here because the switch plate in here was broken, so I opened it up and tried to fix it, but this one is still unfortunately kind of chattering. So I'll replace this one, and I think this one right here, the 8 key. My O key was also not working, but I believe to have fixed that one, so that's good for now. But either way, I have a lot more spare switch plates. Alright, so yeah, I've just been using toothpicks to open up Alps. So that's what we'll do. You know, I've been doing this for long enough that I can do pretty quickly now, at least opening up switches. But yeah, I really gotta get in the habit of checking to make sure my mic isn't muted, because it was muted for like the last, half an hour of the last stream, so I really apologize. I do not stream. So And as of today, I have decided to do another custom Alps project in the near future, so be on the lookout for that. Quite excited because the switches, even though they're like a second generation Alps switch, they're not really the easiest to find, but I actually got kind of lucky getting two decently priced sources of those switches. Sometimes these toothpicks slide out or fall, and then I can't get the switch open. But the stock switches in here are actually like stiffer than Salmon's, because I have a Salmon AEK board, and then I tested these, like even along these are definitely lighter, because even if I do like a stem test like this, well, maybe they're pretty close. It's kind of going back and forth, whichever one is going down. But I'm using the cream damp springs in the modded pine blacks, so that the creams still feel, I guess, not too stiff, because I don't know what it was, but like not swapping the springs made the creams like stiff. So toothpick's already getting annoying. Okay, a few more left for this row. I mean, I will say the one nice thing about Bamboo, like Alps switches, is that the top housings are all nice and shiny, so the switches look, like newer, which they are. So sometimes the toothpicks just don't want to stay in there. And then it just gets annoying. I mean, I think it works better on the pine switches, but I'm really, not sure, because it's different for every board. And thank goodness I'm getting an actual Alps switch opener pretty soon. So I'm definitely ready to move on from toothpicks. I don't want to get too many like toothpick shavings in my switches either. Alright, we got all those off. Reload my stream to make sure it's good, and I think it is. Okay, so next I have to get some of these out. And actually, I can probably do this. Okay, this should be showing now. This is the wiki.copy page of SKCM Ivory or Cream Damp School. The original Death Authority wiki went under, and I found this copy one day, so we get to get a look at these Ivory or Cream Damp switches. What was it? Yeah, this picture. Anyway, so apparently Cream Damps have like two different types of leaves and sliders. The older one having actually a slider that's almost white, but it's like ever so slightly off-white, and then a tactile leaf that looks identical to salmon's, although I doubt they feel the same. Because, with my salmon board, I'm able to compare them, and so I think these cream damp leaves are a bit thinner, and that's maybe why they don't feel quite as nice as salmon's. But the later cream damps, a bit more of a cream colored slider. They have different kind of leaf with like longer teeth compared to the shorter teeth, and these longer teeth leaves actually do feel a little bit better. So I'm not exactly sure why that's the case, but and then there's one picture of bamboo ivory or cream damps. But yeah. Okay. And we can go. Alright, so now we can get going. Maybe I should move this back a little bit so then I can get more of this in the stream window. Maybe a good idea too. Okay, and this brings me to the next thing about these ivory switches. A lot of their tactile leaves tend to get clicky on the upstroke. So what you do to fix that, you take tweezers and you like bend out the four tabs, the two on each side, and so that it creates an angle, and that way in the housing it's nice and tight. Like, is that gonna stay? I think so. Okay, this is a short tab. Although bear in mind, these switches have already been cleaned up and restored, so the parts may not completely match. A little bit of a disclaimer there. I did try like a few months ago linearized blacks and creams. They're definitely lighter in feeling than yellow Alps. So, if you linearize creams or blacks, you should get something, I guess, somewhat close to SKCL greens, but I haven't tried those, so. Let's see. Now we have a black switch open. I can get that as well. Okay. Although I like to keep the switch plate in the pine housing like that. Let's see. Yeah. So then what I do is just, carefully keeping track, swap black slider and leaf and the cream damp slider and leaf together. The black leaves thankfully aren't that clicky, but they are a little bit in some of them. That one a little bit. But I like to fix it anyway. And also these sliders I stole from the same SKBM blacks. And I don't know what it is about SKCM black sliders, like kind of like turning gray, but these are like completely black, which is nice. And I'm gonna take the tweezer Okay. My mom loves to interrupt me all the time. So then what you do is like slightly bend the retaining tabs outward. Not too much. Not too much that doesn't want to go in the housing. But just enough to where it keeps the leaf nice and snug in there. That way it won't, move when it clicks. Okay, and then so you're using the cream damp springs. And that is how I'm making my custom pine black Alps switches. Alright, so the spring is already in there. Because I won't need to take those out. I could probably just straighten the rest of them. Luckily this board sits pretty flat, so I don't have to worry about springs falling too much. Alright. It is also apparently known that the earliest ivory switches have loop sliders, and I think that is definitely the case. I don't know if it's going to pick up on this one, but this is an early cream slider, because apparently I think it has some of the original dry loop on it, because there's scratches, visible scratches on the slider, I think, from the lube. And other switches, I don't notice the same scratches, so I think it's definitely lube. Okay. I think these cream damp leaves are a bit thinner because they bend a little bit easier. And I can tell they're not as snug as other tactile Alps switches like orange or salmon's. So I have to bend these out a little bit more. They still fit in the bamboo housing. Sometimes I have to push in the sides a little bit for them to go in, which is fine. Although, I will say after doing that on a board, the switches definitely feel better. No, they feel more proper, I guess. Alright. I think this board will be a lot better using these bamboo ivories. Yeah. I think the leaves in the first gen ones, they don't feel quite as... I don't know. I don't really feel much of a tactile bump in these, but... I mean, I have more parts, and I may just move some of the parts around after doing this so that I get, all of the long teeth leaves in, these switches so that they feel a bit better to type on, but in reality, they do feel quite similar, but I think this might be a long tab. This switch might have a leaf with long teeth. Yes. These just somehow feel better. I don't know why, but they just do. And that one's got a lubricated slider in it. And we take a black Alps switch. And I don't have good lighting, so I definitely apologize, and it's hard to make it look good enough on my just one desk lamp, so I mean, but it works. I'm sorry I can't keep in the frame, but I just like to have my arms close to my face. I can't like do it like this. It just feels unnatural to me. But once again, I suck at streaming, so bear with me. I'm better at working on keyboards than streaming, so... Am I putting this in the right way? Yeah. Bamboo housings don't snap together as satisfyingly as the blacks. Oh yeah, and I can just tell right off the bat. You can feel the tactile bump more with the leaves with the longer teeth. But yeah, it's nice not having upstroke clicking on them, because they just sound a lot more consistent. Maybe I just need to move my bag of ivory switches out of the way. These blacks are gonna feel so nice. Just move my bag like over here. Maybe scoot my chair up a little bit. But yeah, this is part 2 where we're making the switches, because we have to for this board. Have to be careful not to lose any of the springs, so yeah. Oh yeah, this slider does not appear to be lubricated. And we have another short tab leaf. Or a short tooth leaf. I don't know. One, I don't know. Can't get the words together. I really do feel like these leaves are like thinner, because they bend easier. Okay, that one's like perfect. Okay, yeah, I did try to put it in backwards that time. I think I'll enjoy this board more with these damp switches. Because right here in my Alps board I have some the EF silent yellows, which are really nice. And then once we get all of the black switches assembled together, we'll get out my multimeter, because I have a little socket thing where I can test each switch to make sure there's continuity, which for Alps is important because we're working with 30-plus-year-old switches, most likely. So it's good to have spare parts, spare switch plates. Don't go away, spring. I would hate for that to happen to you. Another short tooth leaf. Short teeth leaf. After doing this enough times, you kind of get an idea of like how far to bend out these little leaves. But don't bend them off, otherwise you will be kind of screwed with having the switches be clicky. I mean, well, that's kind of the thing, what you do to make clicky black Alps. So. Almost tried to put it in the wrong way again. Oh. Oh yeah, that slider is getting stuck a little bit. Probably swap it with one of the things from my spare switch bag. Okay, well, do the black one. Get the black one out of the way. Maybe I should adjust my camera a little bit. Okay, well, if I can get to like the edge of my desk, then that's better. Okay. Yeah, then it'll feel better for me and be better for you guys. Okay, what I want to do now... swap this. I did say earlier, okay, my toothpick is starting to... Oh, I know, it is time for me to move on from toothpicks, but... I usually keep a couple, but... the second one does not want to stay in the switch. Okay, of course they mess up on stream. Of course they do. Yeah, Simon doesn't want to stay in the switch. Sometimes I have to like balance it so that it like stands up and at least somewhat hold the thing open. I don't know what it is with some of these ivory sliders getting stuck in bamboo housings, but I don't know, it's weird. I don't think it's in like, you know, the older versus the newer slider thing either, so. Okay, I'm swapping it with an unlubricated slider. Okay, yeah, now it flows better. You're putting it in correctly. Okay, yeah. You know, sometimes... Let's see this slider, if it'll work in this housing. Yeah, see, then it works in this one. So that's just a matter of swapping it really between housings, and then you can usually get it to work. can relax a little more. Let's see. Is it possible like point it up or something? I don't know, but then it shines in my eyes, and then it's kind of like. Let's see, yep. And a long teeth leaf, or a long tooth leaf. See, like, cream jam switches are so much better without that, I guess, sort of nasty upstroke clicking, because it really can get annoying, I think. Even though my black switches aren't really that clicky, I think it's little, if any. I'm bending the tab leaves so that doesn't happen in the future. I guess sort of like a preventative maintenance thing. But yeah, these are gonna feel really nice. Really, really nice. Although, I want to see if I can try and move a little bit faster. Good. Another thing I've learned about if you have like a cheap keyboard that doesn't sound good, or if your keyboard just is impossible to sound good, then sometimes the best thing to do is just to shut it up and get some like dampened switches or silent switches in the case of this MX board, and you'll get a nice quiet thok in return. So, and frankly, sound switches are kind of better in a hollow case anyway, because then the thok reverberates some, more. Let's see. Amazing. Oh yeah. It's like going from this to this. Long tooth leaf. Oh wait, I didn't. I don't know if I can like. Didn't bend the tabs out on this one. And doing the tab Benji mod, a lot less time consuming than doing a paper mod, because the paper you have to like cut out pieces then put them behind the leaf. Well, with this you just bend the tabs and like you're done. And of course, due to like not being ever like locked into a switch type, you know, after Alps, you can of course linearize it or clickify it later if you really want to. I mean, that's really the joy of Alps. You're never locked into a configuration with switches. Being able to open them without desoldering is just so handy, and it just wins it over for MX for me, even though these things are like 30 years older than those. But like MX will just never sound the same as Alps. But since blacks and ivories are both super common, they'll be in good stock for many years. I always check to make sure the switch operates, you know, goes up and down correctly, because you don't want a misaligned spring and having nasty spring crunch and having it getting weirdly stiff, because that's usually an indication of that. I'm holding the leaf by the opposite teeth that I'm bending it with, so that I'm not putting force on the actual leaf spring part itself. You know, otherwise you could like mess up the consistency of this, you know, the feel of the switches. I can see swapping Alps parts takes a long time. Still better than, well, yeah, with MX. MX, once you like solder a board, you're locked in with Alps, even if you do solder, you're not locked in. Because even with working with Alps, I only desolder if I have to. I'll just take off the keycaps, open up the switches. I want to change a configuration. It's a long tooth. The majority of creams are these long tooth leaves with the unlubricated sliders. Well, you're making progress. Not too much left for the first row. It is so nice. Having some ivories that don't click on the upstroke. It really is so nice. Oh, I have this one to put together. Right, already got another black switch opened up. Oh, I meant to. That. A little bit of dirt or something at the bottom of those dampening pads in the slider. Oh, I realized I forgot to brush out the bottom housings, but really they're fine. They're really not that bad. It's just really the top housing that needs to be in the best condition. We're doing Alps stuff. Yeah, I'm like thinking like a row might take an hour to do. So I might stop after the second or third row. For this stream anyway. Because I don't want this to go too long. Switch plate. Get a load of these. Oh, it's gonna be so nice. Is one getting stuck? No. Okay. I mean, see, I've only had one switch that it did that, which is weird. But see, luckily it's not a common problem. It only happens on a few out of like 104 switches. Okay, a couple left, and then we'll be done with this first row. Oh shoot. Let's go here in my spacebar stabilizer. Oh wow. The top housing for this one is like literally gray. Like, wow. That is a very gray top housing. Okay, we'll Alright, we'll see if I bent this leaf enough. I may have not, but find out. Oh, I think it's okay. But yeah. I got one row done now. Oh my gosh, this housing is so gray. Like the slider is so much blacker than the housing on this one. Might be able to do 3 rows of switches in a reasonable time. Like, wow. There really is a color difference with this one specific switch. Like, I don't know why some of these housings like turn gray. I mean, it doesn't look ugly, but it's just weird. Still feels good though, which is most important. I don't know how well the camera's gonna pick it up, but okay, you can sort of see it like right there. It's more noticeable in person. Look, the top housing is like literally gray. I don't know why. It's just, I don't know. Alps can be weird sometimes. Cat hairs. Okay. And a lot of times they just pop out before I can get the switch out on both sides. And it's just sometimes really hard to get them out correctly. Yeah, it's not too dirty in there, so. But it's easier just to keep the springs in there. Okay, see now the toothpick isn't staying in there. Of course, this happens when I'm streaming. Darn it, it came out. Now this, great, both of my toothpicks are coming apart. I've just never been ever been able to find a reliable way to open up Alps. That's really the big problem I have. These toothpicks work good for a short while, but then the ends get messed up, and then opening up switches becomes a royal pain. Only when I'm streaming, of course. I've tried using toothpicks on both sides, but I find that usually doesn't work as well. Because then both will fly out. And like these bamboo housings aren't as flexible. It's like the pine housings are something. Another reason why I don't stream much is because my mom comes in here and interrupts me all the time. No matter what I'm doing. I'm a lot faster with toothpicks that aren't coming apart. There we go. Sometimes I have to be quick. Sometimes it just doesn't want to cooperate. Yeah, and both ends are coming apart on this. Having to go back and forth on them a lot. Stupid toothpicks. I don't know. Opening up Alps is just not a reliable thing to find. I had a few 3D printed Alps switch openers. I broke all of those like instantly. And then these toothpicks just don't work well in the long run. They work good for managing the springs, at least. Now we're in 10. Yeah, I'll probably stop after a third row. I hate these toothpicks. Oh man, I hate these toothpicks. They're so much worse than these bamboo housings for whatever reason. I can't. Using my other fingers just feels so unnatural. And see, every time I try to do it with two fingers like that, well, that time it worked, but like 99% of the time it just keeps closing on the other side. I simply cannot find a reliable way to open Alps. Except replacing toothpicks every so often. It's literally the only solution I have. Okay, and that just went under here. I don't struggle this much in person, but of course it happens on the stream. I'd probably be on the third switch by now if it weren't for these horrendous toothpicks. I don't know why all of a sudden they just got so bad for the stream. Usually opening them is not the most tedious part, but it is with this board. By the way, this is the worst board ever I've had for soldering, desoldering. Like, it's bad. But now I'm going to have to replace a few switch plates, and I'm not looking forward to that. Also, I usually listen to music when working on Alps stuff. do the spring last so that I don't risk it flying and losing it, because I hate having to search for springs when they like get launched halfway across my room or roll off under my desk. Both have happened way too many times, but luckily I still haven't actually lost a spring yet. It's been a while since I've had another short tooth leaf switch. I really have to crank out these retaining tabs kind of far on these cream damp switches. Sometimes you have to like push the sides in so that they go in the housing. But I don't know, they might be louder than in a pine housing, but I really don't know for sure though. I've heard the white damp switches are louder than cream damps. Although my theory about that is because on pine housings, these little sits are actually like dampening things for the upstroke. Although they don't really dampen as much as the silicone pads and dampen sliders, but that's maybe part of why they sound so good, but then it could also be the type of plastic used to make them. Because I feel like going to bamboo housings, I think they might have changed the plastic composition to make them not sound as good. Because all like the bamboo Alps types have a noisier upstroke, and maybe that's why the blacks don't sound that nice. And maybe that's also why white damped Alps are louder. I may get some white damps in the future, but I'm really not sure. I mean, if I do, I'd have some comparison material between now these bamboo ivories or damped cream switches. But yeah, I think timing wise, I think after we get the third row, I think we'll call it, because I'm like, there's no way. I mean, at the beginning I was saying doing this was a rough estimate, but then I'll know how far I'm going and how much time. Definitely wasn't going to do the whole TKL, because that would be like 5-6 hours. Moving around Alps, it really does take a long time. But it's definitely worth it though. But even then, because you're not locked in to an Alp configuration, you can switch all the parts back if you really want to. Okay, I might have bent that one too much. I mean, it's not the end of the world if you like bend them too much. You kind of have to like help it when you're putting it in the housing. Kind of like pushing the sides a little bit. But yeah, I'm like, the person I got these from was nice enough to send in some extra switches. And extra switches means extra switch plates, and that means extra switch plates means extra parts for not if, but when the switch plates die in Alps. Oh, another short tooth, a leaf. Although the short tab leaf in this switch doesn't feel as untactile as this one. This one feels more like an MX Brown type thing, while this one definitely can feel more of a clear tactile bump. I mean, yeah, the later Alps were never as consistently made, you know, as the older ones. But, I mean, they're still great. Good for modding and, you know, getting into cheaper Alps. You know, and you know, custom Alps projects, so. It's cheap for a reason. Oh, almost lost the spring. But even with cheap switches, you can actually make some, you know, nice stuff if you put the right parts together. Another short tab or short tooth leaf. And yeah, I still haven't had a second ivory or cream damp slider that's gotten, you know, stuck since that one. But yeah, like if you really want to do like a project like this, swapping some damp ivory pine housing damp switches with some bamboo housing, non-damped, then you definitely want to get ivories instead of the white damp. Because white damps all use bamboo housings, which that makes them closer to like this configuration here with bamboo housing and a damp slider. Although they're not as common as these. Still a nice, gentle, low-pitched thok kind of thing. Definitely better than that, because like even like doing this versus this, you can really tell how much deeper these blacks are in the pine housings, which pine housings are the secret sauce to good Alps. You know, and all of us are learning more and more things about Alps and why they're still so good. You know, even 30 years since production ended. It just, although with bamboo housings, it really does look nice having shiny top housings, though. It really does look nice. And we're back to a long tooth leaf. You know, and with these already modded bamboo blacks feeling a little bit stiff, I think these modded ivories are gonna feel a little bit better on my fingers. A little more comfortable. Gotta bend that one out some more. Help that one in there. You don't have to like consistently, you know, or perfectly bend all of the retaining tabs on the leaves, but you know, as long as you don't touch the leaf spring part, the key fill shouldn't really be affected at all. If anything, I think it improves due to the lack of the upstroke click, which is, you know, what they were designed to feel like. They really don't feel that bad. Like a really still a nice gentle tactile bump that's still more than MX Brown is all that really matters. Although I'm still learning my tactile switch taste. I mean, even though tactiles were the first MX switch I thought I liked, then I realized I didn't. I think it's because I had a keyboard with some Kale Browns that just didn't feel consistent. You know, I had some Glorious Pandas, those felt like too rounded. I wanted like a sharp tactile bump. I mean, you know, getting into clears, those are really, I thought those were pretty nice. But then, you know, I made ergo clears and I decided to sell the boards. Here's a really clicky one. There'll be no more ones to put in here. But then, it wasn't too long after just getting into normal, modern mechanical keyboards, I learned about the old stuff. Because I found a stash of old boards at my grandma's house. Quite a few. And to this day, I still regret not getting them. Because there were a few decent ones there. Although, like, a couple I did save, but I don't know why I didn't save the rest of them. I mean, there was nothing, like, super huge, like, worth a ton of money, but a lot of things that were worth a little bit of money. Okay. I can't multitask very well either. But yeah, I still remember a lot of the boards, and I did take pictures of a lot of them. They're like 4 AT-101Ws. I mean, they're all like garbage and thrown out now. I know, which makes me sad, but I had a second chance to get them, and I still said no. Like 4 AT-101W things. There was a Peerless board, a couple of Model M's. Those are the ones I did save. Well, the M13 I sold because I realized I didn't like the track point in the middle. And, well, the Rubber Dome M I still have, although that one's my dad's. I got a new Unicomp. I swapped the case. About to actually swap the case again because the screw sockets are broken. What else were there? Some other rubber dome things. Some clicky. Yeah, I didn't bend that one enough. Okay, I'll put this one together first. But like, I don't know, I discovered this one NMB rubber dome board that I just really liked because it just felt really nice. Well, the build quality was nice. And the key felt nice too. I still enjoy NMB dome slider to this day. Although I've actually, cleaned up and sold several of those. But I really like them whenever I get another in my hands. I don't know, maybe it is just like the nice build quality that they have, but I don't know, I just really like NMB dome sliders. And then, I kept going back and forth with that board, and it was a GMMK 65% at the time. Well, before that, my first keyboard was a Red Dragon K552 with the red linear switches, and I think I just started off bad because I hated those linear switches, and I just, went back to tactiles, and then I went into Alps or vintage stuff because watching Gyros Run's videos. I probably pronounced his name wrong, but whatever. Then I started learning all these things, and I think old keyboards are really cool. And then I got my first Alps board, I think it was like a year and a half ago. And the rest is history. I fell in love with clicky Alps, although my first Alps board was a black FK-2001W. But switches felt really bad, so then I had to learn how to take it apart and clean it up and everything. And then I got some more Alps boards here and there, found some servers, watched Karlström's videos a million times. Still learning how to do Alps. But, I don't know, even now, tactiles just really aren't quite my thing. I'm still... Because, a lot of MX tactiles just aren't good. They're just not as refined because of the way they work, really. And that's when, getting into other Switch designs, older, Alps tactiles are regarded to feel better because they use a different method to generate the tactile leaves. Okay, I hope that works. Oh, did I? Okay, oh dear, these toothpicks! I can't even, oh. I don't know, the last row is gonna be a challenge. I don't know why, these toothpicks just went to crap. All the ends are, coming apart. I just fell in love with clicky Alps because I just like the sharper tactile feel. And then I tried some, more vintage linear things, which, I really learned to like. And now I'm starting to like MX linears again because I've had the chance to try some nicer ones than Ochamu Reds. And recently, finally got some hands on some linear Alps, which are really great. They feel really nice. I think for me, they just sound so much better than anything MX. But still, even after lubing and restoring my Salmon Alps, my Salmon AEK, I'm still not 100% sure. But I don't know. These I somehow like more than those. But I think I'm going to like these more. But even with switches that have a subtle tactility, I mean, I had an AEK2 like a few months ago, then sold it. I don't know. These might be okay. I'll definitely have to get used to these. Tactiles just aren't my favorite type of switch in general. Alright, good. Very good. Now let's see if this one will go in. Alright, awesome. That's like really the first. I really like clickies, and I still really do, even if it's MX Blue. I still enjoy MX Blue. I don't know, I just have gotten a soft spot for it. And growing up watching videos of that sound in the background, yeah. I was able to find myself a new old stock, like, big old Logitech from 10 years ago. And those old gaming keyboards, I think they still look really nice. I don't know, a lot of the modern boards to me just look boring. Okay, if I can get the switch plate in there. But yeah, I learned to like clickies, then I learned to like linears again, and I'm still trying to learn to like tactiles, some of them. But I, started out, I went from is it linear tactile? Yeah, linear tactile to clicky. And then, I learned to love clicky, then linear, and then now trying to learn to like good tactile switches again. But it is what it is. I know. I tend to not like a lot of the trendy things. I don't like flex cuts. I like a hard keyboard because I want a keyboard that feels like it's well built, not flimsy. I don't want a keyboard that feels like it's gonna break every time you type on it. I want a keyboard that sounds good, not like crap MX stuff. Alps just wipe the floor with MX everything. They really do. Although, except smooth isn't really. But the feel and sound, Alps is just way better. And don't get me wrong, I still like silent MXs. I know. And clicky MXs too. I mean, the Kale box switches I like those. But MX tactiles, I just don't like them. I just don't like any of them. And I tried several MX tactiles. Let's see. Glorious Pandas, the original Acco CS lavender purples, some Red Dragon Cypress tactiles, clears. Those are probably the best ones I tried still. Clears and Ergo clears, which I've heard are the same as purples. Well, Cherry also has a silent tactile now. It's just MX tactiles just don't feel refined. Oh, old slider in that one. Alright, we're actually starting to get close to the end of the second row now. Yeah, lubricated slider. But yeah, after being in the Alps, it's just been a lot of fun. You know, just a lot of trying and experimenting new things. Because, I mean, you can do that with Alps. I mean, you can Franken-switch MX stuff too, but when you solder MX, you're locked in. When you solder Alps, you're still not, because you can open these without desoldering. And you can Franken-switch with Alps, which is kind of what I'm doing. Like, why does the bottom out on that one feel a little bit louder? I don't know, it's weird. I don't know, I'll have to look at that one again. But yeah, I think I have enough courage to do one more row of switch swapping before calling it a night. And I'll probably finish the rest tomorrow. I'm like, did I put it in the wrong way? No. I'm like, why are some of these really hard to get in here? I don't know. I think that's just how it is. Maybe I will want to swap it with a spare. That just sounds louder than anything else for whatever reason. Oh boy. Dang it, it came out before I could get my finger in there. There's nothing wrong with... I don't know. No. I don't know why. Well, I mean, if I encounter a switch that just is noticeably off or something, I'll just put it in a different spot on the board. Maybe the dampeners have gotten pushed in so far that the slider actually touches the hard plastic part of the slider actually touches the bottom of the housing. Yeah, still haven't had a second slider get stuck. There's like dust on my tweezers. But yeah, I mean, I really want my alpha block of keys to feel as consistent as possible. Look and feel and sound. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to desoldering 2 switch plates from this board. Because I was like, I really don't want to lift more pads because I think it was the caps lock. I like almost like completely lifted the pad on that one. And luckily that one still works, thankfully. But so far, these bamboo ivories are coming out great. They all feel and sound pretty consistent to me. These blocks, though, I am really excited for part 3 of this. For part 3, I'm really trying to decide if I want to show the desoldering or not. The thing is, if I do, I have to stream it on my phone. And then, coming back in here to put it back together, it's like, I don't know. I will say, I like the FK-2001 as a keyboard overall compared to the Dell AT101W. The focus is nowhere near as hard to open up as the Dell, because the Dell has those super tight, annoying clips that they're hard to open and they can break easily. Okay, we got another short tooth leaf. The focus, it's, you know, one less clip, but they're way less hard to open up. The focus is better keycaps, and I think it looks a lot better too than the AT101. Although the one AT101 I have has been click modded, you know. I go, you know, the most common tactile board to clicky and the most common clicky board, which is the FK-2001, you know, for Alps, to a tactile board. You know, the one I had those crappy later Alps clone switches that are not as nice. So it made sense to desolder them and get some nicer switches to put them in. And at the same time, you know, getting some different switches for this thing. The Focus also has that really cool custom badge on it. I think I have like, what, 4 keyboards with cool custom badges. Although every one of these Black Alps feels like perfectly consistent. Maybe it's the bind housings, I don't know. Maybe it's the better leaves that I found to use for these, but they really do feel nice and snappy. But yeah, like, I've grown to like a lot of rubber dome tactiles. Like Maxi Switch Dome with slider is my favorite. I love those domes. Like, they just feel really good to me. I don't know why. And also on that one, it had like an empty badge spot, but I had this Keytronic board, which I do still have, I'm trying to sell, that had the badge, so it didn't really fit on that. And I was like, hey, wait a second, I think that'll fit on my Maxi Switch, and so it does, and my Maxi Switch is a little more personalized now, so I think it's great. And, you know, it comes with nice caps, and it sounds pretty nice, and it's built nice. I like Maxi Switch over BTC, personally. Done with slider only. I also like BTC foam and foil, which I do have as well. Put silencing rings in that, then you get like a budget toper basically. Alright, second row finished. Now I just gotta get this last switch put together and already got a good number of my custom pine Black Alps. Maybe I should talk a little bit about pine Black Alps in general. Alright, so I guess we can... Normal pine Black Alps, you know, I think came out maybe right after Salmon's. But they were nowhere near as common as the later bamboo Black Alps, which I have in here. but these pine black ones are noted to feel a lot better, and sound because of their secret sauce pine housings. And they're generally more expensive, and not as found in many boards. Really, the only ones are like the 97 Bigfoot, Big Feets, and some of those Next keyboards that are really expensive. And that's why, if you can't afford or can't find real pine black Alps, then make your own with some cheap cream damp switches and cheap bamboo blacks, because you can get some nice sounding pine blacks, although they still may not feel as snappy, but then you still get some nice ivories to use, which I really think is the best of both worlds. Because like if you get an FK-2001 with bamboo blacks and an AEK2 with ivories, which like 90% of them have, I would make, making an educated guess, you can switch swap the parts between the two boards, because the AK will sound so much better with your homemade pine blacks, and I think the FK-2001 sounds better with the ivories, because those don't really sound that good anyway. It's sometimes better to shut it up than to make it sound good. Having ivories or cream damps and like an FK-2001 kind of makes it like a cheaper SGI granite, because those all come with the same cream or white dampened Alps. Although it's much cheaper to get an AK than an SGI, even a beige one. But I mean, AKs are still cheaper to get than a normal FK-2001 for some reason, even though the AK2s are like built better in every way. So I think, I still think those are better boards for custom projects. Okay, let's see if I can get some more of these open without more toothpick difficulties. But I mean, I just really wanted to show, the main idea of the process of creating some custom Franken Alps that feel great, from like other cheap, from true like normally cheap Alps, and making them better and putting them in a nice keyboard. Oh, Leaf didn't come out with that one. But really though, I'd only make, customize the FK-2001s with an Alps, Alps clone switches in them. Because a lot of them can still come with a white Alps, which can still be really nice. Although I already have a couple white Alps boards that are just overall way better. Overall better than a 2001 with white Alps, so I didn't need another white Alps 2001. And then there's the blue Alps 2001s, which are pretty hard to find. Although I'd love a 2001 with those rare Omron clone things, which I haven't seen one. Dang it. And this toothpick is being mean again. Okay, 3 left. Dang it. These toothpicks were literally great until today. Until the stream. Let's keep swapping between the 2 and the 2 ends. Darn it. See? Ugh. Wonderful toothpicks. Last one. Alright. No more of that for tonight. I still do the rest of the board tomorrow. I mean, see. This takes so long. Yeah, we're at 2 hours already. I think 2.5. Yeah, I think that'll be about right timing-wise. 2.5 hours, I think, when this gets done. Tweezers don't really squeeze unless you like squeeze it like right across from the item. So like, you know, having my fingers like right next to them, because I'm bending them at like the base of the tweezers, not like at the end, because the end doesn't give a good enough grip. But yeah, I've worked on so many more Alps and MX stuff at this point, because it's just so much easier to work on Alps, even though it requires more maintenance than MX. I don't know. I would argue that Alp switches are also easier to open up than MX, because you don't really have to use a switch opener. I mean, with loose Alp switches, it's actually very easy to use your fingers to open them up. But in a board is where it's a little bit harder, because you have to like stick in something to unlatch the tabs, and also have something to pull up the top housing off. Man, these black Alps are gonna be amazing. My bag of cream damps are getting smaller. Another good thing about bamboo housings, they're much easier to find in good condition, because they're all like the last Alps, black, white damped, and even bamboo white Alps. I did have a board of those, but I did sell it to somebody. And that, my bamboo white Alps board was my first clicky. Did I put in the wrong side? Yes. I put the, okay, I did put the slider in the leaf in the wrong side. Usually I'm pretty good about putting the Alps parts in the right places, but nobody's perfect. So you never want to push too hard down on Alps when you're putting them back together. Yeah. Very nice. But yeah, I'm really glad I learned about this tab bending mod to restore tactile Alps. So they don't click anymore. What? Is this one clicky? There's no way. Not sure why this one switch was actually, black switch was actually clicking a little bit. I think that was actually the first one I've had like that. Now it's better. Or not. It's still very faint though. Oh well. I'm definitely getting tired now. Another old lubricated slider. Yeah, I think the reason why these ivories or cream damps get so clicky is that they have the loosest leaves have the loosest fit of like all the other tactile Alps. And this switch is doing that same clacky thing as over here. Actually, maybe I'll swap it with the caps lock. I don't know, sometimes I could do it this way, sometimes it doesn't work. Okay, that did work. Yeah, that's better. Putting these on like keys I don't use too much. But then again, I still have spares, so not like it's the end of the world. Yeah. When I get this row finished up so I can cut the stream and put my music back on. Oh, some like crud on the slider or something. These blacks are gonna be delicious. Might be able to get it done before New Year's. We'll see though. But yeah, with these ivory cream damped leaves, I have to bend those out pretty far. I mean, yeah, I have to help them in the switch, but I still get a nice tight fit, which is what you want for these. Okay, maybe not that one. I think that's another one of those. There's a slight clack. I mean, if that really does bother me, later I can still swap them out. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Does that one feel weird now too? Okay, I can hear a little bit of clicking in that one. I don't know. Usually just have to bend one of the sides to fix it, but I don't know. I just want to bend both because I can. Okay. I mean, if this doesn't fix it, I mean, the click is not as noticeable with, you know, non-dampened Alps because the clacks will sort of mask it. It's still clicky. And the tactile bump is like sharper, so it feels more clicky. Oh well, I'll be able to rearrange all the switches on the board as I like. So that, you know, I don't have a random switch in the middle of the thing that feels weird, so. Well, at least these ivories are all coming out pretty good, so I'm happy there. It's just an OCD thing to do that, I swear. Something in there. Not exactly sure what I'm doing different to these leaves that caused a couple to be clicky. Yeah, that one doesn't click. Little chip with something on that slider. It's not a keycap piece, but I don't know. It is so nice having those ivories feel and sound so much more consistent again. Yeah, trying to get ahead of myself again. Almost there. Let's see. 2.5, might get pretty close. 2.5 hours. Test them all. Alright, last one for... two more. Two more for tonight. If you're wondering why I'm not talking, it's because I'm busy. Hard at work. Well, I'm also tired too, so... Might have bent that one a little too much. But that's okay. Not a huge problem. Now we're on to the last one. This one feels like a short tooth leaf. It is indeed. See if this one hopefully doesn't have a clacking noise on the enter, but it's okay, we'll find out. We'll find out. Alright, last switch going on for tonight. No, actually it's fine. Although doesn't feel as untactile, so alright, I think that one's okay. Okay, we're just about finished. Well, so far. For the stream anyway, finished with swapping switches. And hopefully you can see this takes a lot of time. Okay, just gotta get this one back together and we'll start testing all of the blacks we currently have. Wait a minute. This one feels a little bit stiffer than the rest. Well, it's definitely the right spring. And I don't think it was unseated properly, because the switch went all the way down. This might just be one of those anomaly switches where it's not as tactile and for whatever reason. Oh well, I will have 2 extras by the time I'm done, so I could probably not use this one, or since it's stiffer I could put it on a modifier key, but this one spring is stiffer. I don't know, but we're finished with this for tonight. And this is going to sound and feel great once it's done. Here are all our black switches. Our custom pine blacks. Okay, gotta set my stuff to the side for tonight. Let's see, I can put this back on and maybe bring this back out. So I've been using this Alps board for the past few days. It's been a lot of fun. Not gonna need any of my tools, although any of those. I need mine. I think I put in here. Okay, did take the thingy off. You actually the box out. Sign, so I know. Alright, so yeah, this is my multimeter with a little accessory piece here that has like little sockets I can test Alps switches in. I mean, it works, so I just gotta set it to continuity. And we should go through all these pretty quickly, and then I think we'll be out of here. Because right, I mean, with Alps, you definitely want a reliable way of testing them. Got a notification on my computer. What's this? I don't know what that was. Oh well. Ideally, they should actuate around halfway down the travel. I mean, this is the first time I'm testing these, so I have no idea how many work or don't work, but I think I can just set it there. But always why you have extras. But I mean, these blacks they're looking pretty good, and they're feeling pretty good. So really stoked about this. I mean, if they actuate pretty low, or not at all, then switchblade, gotta at least clean it out. I don't know, my parents are gonna be wondering what the heck I'm doing. But you wanna like hold it down and like do a circular motion to make sure that there's no chattering or anything, so. There's no volume control on this either, so it's. Well, what do you know? I think that's our first dead one right off the bat. to make a separate pile. Okay, our good and bad ones. That one actually is a little lower. Yeah, I can like press it down, let them bump without actuating it. I don't know, I put that one in the bad pile too. See if I can fix it. That one's good. This one actuates like all the way at the bottom. That one's good. Yeah, that one's good. And this way, you know, testing them beforehand, you don't have to desolder switches just to find another working one. You can just test them before you do the solder, and that'll save you time soldering. Good. Okay, that one's being a little weird. I'll probably blow out all those switch plates. So. Okay. Yet I usually tend to get Alps boards with 0 dead switches. Yet these, I'm not surprised though. I mean, might need a little bit more love, especially if like, I don't actuate consistently. I think that one's okay. That one's a little low on actuation. That one too. But yeah, I'll have all these fixed hopefully by part 3. Actuation at like the very bottom of the travel. Maybe it's like my pins don't grab on the switches very well. I am really not sure now. I think, oh yeah, a lot of them just actuate very low. I want to try to fix that because, you know, if you they'll make the typing more consistently. Okay, that one's kind of sus. That one's good. I don't know, my piles are pretty even right now. That one's good. Okay, I think I'm gonna let that one pass. And here's the one with the really gray housing, I think. Or maybe it's another one. Or maybe it was that one. There's more than one with really gray housings. Because, like, what I do is, like, I press it, like, just enough to get over the tactile bump, but by then they should actuate. got like nothing until the very bottom on that one. Absolutely nothing on that one. That one I'm gonna let go. It's definitely good. Dead. And this is why you definitely want to have extra switches. I doubt it's my multimeter, though. Because if I wiggle the slider around, then it sometimes registers. Oh boy, I have a lot of work to get these up and going again. Okay, now my bad pile is bigger than my good pile. Well, I still got more switches to go through on the other boards, so... yeah. These are just white switch plates, like the short white ones. I've usually had very good luck with those. There's no way it's my multimeter, though. Well, maybe it is. I have no idea. See? Let me stick that previous one back in. I mean, jeez. I mean, I just have to blow out a bunch of the switch plates, which... that's how I fixed a bunch of these. I fixed most of those by just separating the switch plate up and blowing it out, so... wow. Okay. I will definitely have doing switch plate repairs up the wazoo, apparently. That one just actuates very low. Those should be the easier ones to fix. Just have to bend out the leaf thing a little bit more. And I may be too sensitive, but I want my Alps to work well. Wow, this is like super unlucky. Or maybe they are all fine, but it's just I want to have good quality control. Maybe they're just not in the making good time. I'm trying to like push, you know, so that they. No, that's definitely the switch. Remember Alps switches actuating so deep down. I think, you know, they actuate like just after halfway. I doubt it's this. I doubt it. I can try resetting it, but I think it's gonna fix much. Getting nothing on that one. Maybe it really is. There's no way my multimeter could have just start crapping out on stream. I'm like, seriously? I just have really bad luck with streams. That one's still acting a little sus, though. I'm like, seriously, can I get a good switch for once? I mean, okay, I'm getting questionable about this. I mean, this worked really great until tonight. I don't know why. They just actuate so low, many of them. Sometimes wiggling them when they're pressed can sometimes get the switch plate to wake up again. I'm starting to question myself of this. Oh dear. There's no way these can all be bad. There's no way that this thing can already be bad. I don't have alligator clips, so I have to rely on this little accessory piece. Okay, well now what happens if I test a good one again? Is that gonna act up? Sort of? I don't know. There's another good switch. See, that works good. Another, okay, good switch for the first in a while. I'll let that one pass as well. Oh, man. Wow. I'll have to work on a lot of these switch plates. I don't even want to know how many bad ones that was. Too many. Let's see. Well, I'm probably will go through all them again at some point before putting them in the board, of course. I still have the rest of the switches on the board to swap, and then I test those. Okay, well, I think we're about done for tonight. I could probably dump out the rest of these. Yes, I did count out all the spare ones. Let's see. I could actually count. Well, I could probably put all the good blacks in this bag for now. It'll get full later down the road. And this is like my spare working pile. Although I'm gonna have to go through the rest of those, make sure that they work. Okay, so let's see. How many of these do I have left? 16. See, that's 45. I don't know, I think I'm only like halfway done. Let's see how many of these. There's 10. There's 20. There's 30. There's 40 and 45. Okay, yep. I will work some more on this tomorrow. And I think we are done for tonight. So, thank you all for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed, and I will see y'all in part 3 whenever, however I decide to do part 3. So, thank y'all for tuning in. Merry Christmas, everybody.